Hey everyone, welcome to Ikigai Essentials, podcast focused on holistic health. It's been a while, but we're back with a new episode today. I'm Oliver Ike, joined by my partner here, Bill. So today we're going to be focusing on something that I came across actually fairly recently. I'm in an exercise kind of club app, like an app kind of community, I guess. Like it's run by Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's called the Pump Club, and so it's like this community that's through this app. But there's some in-person stuff as well, some gatherings. But it started out as like exercise, how to exercise properly, and from there, kind of built out to nutrition. But they're continuing to kind of build out kind of different things, and I really like it because it's really about kind of creating well-rounded people, I think. So the newest kind of thing that they've started doing was recently they started a book club. So we're going to be kind of talking a little bit about that book, and we'll talk a little bit more about what we uncovered there. So the book is called The Comfort Crisis. It's by an author named Michael Easter. So I highly recommend if you have a chance to check that out. So I read it a couple weeks ago, and then we had a Q&A with the author kind of about the book. So yeah, the topic, it's called Misogi. So Bill, you want to talk about what that is and what that means?
Let's do it. Yeah. So appreciate you sharing that article, Oliver. And, glad we're back at it. We've been away for a while, but we're focused now to get some more new episodes created from our podcast. So, this is actually a new concept to me. Oliver just presented to me recently, and it's actually a pretty interesting concept. To sum it all up, the way I look at it is just kind of, how do you push yourself to the limit? How do you push yourself to the extreme? Basically, I guess what misogi means in Japanese, it's water cleansing. It's an ancient Japanese practice involving purifying the mind, purifying the body, and also purifying the spirit through physical and mental challenges. So as I said earlier, it's just really, how do you push yourself to the limit? How do you push yourself to the extreme? How do you feel that discomfort? At the end of the day, I think there's really a lot of benefits from doing those things.
Yeah. So I think when we talk about like health, so one of the topics, so the book is called The Comfort Crisis, which is an interesting title for a book. There are some comforts that are well earned, and we don't always, you don't want to reject certain technological advances, right? Just having like air conditioning is great. Having a car to get you where you need to go, and those kinds of things. But so the author kind of argues that it can be too much. You don't even have to leave your house to get food. They can get it delivered to you. You literally, if you work hybrid schedule, you don't have to talk to anyone like face to face, pretty much ever, if you don't want to. So I think just like I think most of it through technology, we've created an environment that's just makes everything very, very easy for everyone. So when that happens, and I've found this happening to me too, is that you kind of get into these, you're like, single vision, where you know what time you're going to wake up, you kind of know what you're going to do that day, and it becomes kind of like this monotonous cycle, and there's no wonder, there's no excitement, there's no purpose in your everyday life, and a lot of that comes from being too comfortable. So the whole thing, the whole idea of the misogi, and if you look it up, there's like misogi challenges and things like that. It's really about like, how do you challenge yourself to the point where it changes the rest of your year, basically. And a lot of these articles online talk about maybe doing it like once a year, and then it drastically kind of affects the other 364 days of the year. So for Bill, like when you talk about like misogis like in the past, and I mean, and maybe at the time you didn't realize that's what you're doing, but I'm wondering if you have anything that you've gone through or done that kind of relates to what we're talking about.
Yeah, it's actually relatively new for me. Something that I've actually been trying probably within the last month or so. Just kind of rewind a little bit. I was actually in Taiwan for a few weeks visiting family, summer vacation for my kids and all that. And while I'm there, my wife decided we should just go to Chinese medicine, go see a Chinese doctor to see what's up with my body. Throughout the last few years, actually several years, I've had issues with my stomach, my GI tract. I've just had a lot of digestive problems. I've tried Western medicine, Eastern medicine, acupuncture, you name it, anything, probiotics, whatever, but nothing really seemed to work. And one thing that really triggered this time, and I think it is kind of related to what you're talking about, Oliver, in terms of Misogi and some of those mental challenges, is it seems like it's pretty simple for me as a concept, but challenging, very challenging for me to do. One thing that the Chinese doctor told me is, pretty basic stuff. Cut down on spicy food, fried food, salty food, cut down on sweets, even cut down on ice cold stuff. And that really caught my attention because my whole life, whether it's hot or cold, winter or summer, I always drink ice water. Every morning, whatever the temperature is, I always have an iced coffee. But mentally, it's just challenging for me to give up that ice. But in the last 3 to 4 weeks, I've been really practicing that. And I've actually noticed a huge difference, not only physically with my body, where I feel like my stomach feels a little bit better. I'm seeing some improvements, but I feel like I'm getting a little bit of mental clarity. But now that I look back at it, it does kind of relate to what you're talking about, Oliver, is in terms of practicing Misagi, pushing your body to that extreme. Although it doesn't sound that extreme, it sounds pretty basic to give up ice and ice water and cold stuff. But for me, it was just a challenge. I never wanted to. I thought like that's what I needed in the hot weather. That's what I needed to quench my thirst and to hydrate me. But just pushing myself to actually do that for the last few weeks, it actually makes sense. I think that, like you said, it will doing it once a year, doing it once in a while will give me that clarity going forward. And I hope it will continue with that. That's just the example that I thought of, recently.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, I think the interesting thing about misogi is that it's different for everyone. So
Yeah.
I think as long as like you are challenging yourself, and there's a good chance of failure, I think that's one of the main parts about it. So for me, I think, I mean, just like recently, I guess. So I just something I've always wanted to do was get my motorcycle license. Um, I don't know. I never really prioritized it until now. So yeah, I took a training course, and I just got my M1 license today. But yeah, I mean, just being, I mean, you hear stories and you watch the news, and if you get in a wreck on a motorcycle, you're probably not going to survive. So there's just like this inherent fear that I've always had, and during the riding, just like the training course and riding the motorcycle, you have there's like fear that you just need to kind of overcome. So that was extremely challenging, like physically. Just I think the most challenging part is that if you make a mistake on a motorcycle, there's a good chance you're going to get hurt really bad. Like if you're, playing basketball or baseball, like the odds that you're going to get hurt are pretty low. Um, so and then so just doing that, something that was really hard that I didn't have any experience doing, that was very outside of my comfort zone, and kind of still being able to do it was like really really rewarding. And I would say passing that training program, I mean, it was pretty close. I almost didn't pass. It I don't know. It's hard to explain. It like gives you this sense of confidence that you just can't recreate like artificially. Like you have to like overcome something really really challenging, and then you get this sense of confidence that you can. And that's so the Misogi thing. It really I kind of feel it like on a very deep level, because I feel like I'm feeling the benefits right now
Yep.
of overcoming these things. So yeah.
And that's, based off some studies and research that I read online, is there's three things that kind of are related to Misogi, right? Number one is you should push the limit. I think with my example, as basic as it is, just giving up ice water, I was pushing myself to my body to the limit. I was so used to having cold drinks that I just couldn't give it up, but I had to push myself harder to actually try it and give it up and see the benefits. Second thing is Misogi should scare you a bit. And I think you kind of nailed that, Oliver, is man, it's scary riding a motorcycle. I remember my gardener's son just told me a couple months ago that he was riding a bike, a car hit him, he flipped like 10, 20 feet. Luckily he had all the gear on and he survived and he's okay, but it's scary. And I think you did that by overcoming that fear and going through that moment of being scared, kind of give you that reward at the end. And then the third one here is kind of related to what you and I both said, is Misagi is for you, not for anyone else, right? Like there's so many times my wife and I are talking about, maybe we should diet together. Maybe we should try work on this plan together and give up some of those things so your gut gets better. That's great for the support and all that, but at the end of the day, it's up to me and it's for me. And same as you, Oliver, I'm sure, your friends or people that in your network talk about riding motorcycles, but at the end of the day, it's solely for you and benefiting you at the end.
Yeah. I mean, so yeah, I think we kind of do. I don't know. We kind of do these things. I don't know if it's natural. I'm not really sure. Like, I don't know. I've been probably more. Well, I don't know. It might be like an age thing too. Like because I've taken up a lot of stuff that I've never tried before recently. So I'm 43 now. I just got my motorcycle license. I started surfing like a year or 2 years ago. Something I've always wanted to do, but I'm like not a great swimmer. So again, like inherently, it's scary. Like if you get, and like I've gone out surfing and sometimes you get nailed by a wave and you have no idea where you are. Sometimes the board like will hit you in the head and almost knock you out, or like all these things happen. I've been injured probably more surfing than any other sport I've ever done. And then just being in water. Like again, if you're on the basketball court, I used to play basketball. You fall down, you're on solid ground. But when you're in the ocean, like you are at the mercy of the ocean. You cannot defeat the ocean.
It's scary.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know what it is, but I guess I don't know. I guess I've been doing these misogis just without knowing, what it was. And yeah, like another thing I did like when I lived in Japan was like climbing Mount Fuji. I was younger though at that time, so I don't know if I really, but I remember clearly like when you climb Mount Fuji, you can die. Like there's a trail for the most part, but there are points where you're like actually like climbing rock, and if you slip,
Wow.
like it's over.
Wow.
So like there's definitely points like climbing Mount Fuji where you're like, oh my god, like if I make a mistake here, that's it. And then you don't know, like until you get up into a mountain, you have no idea how altitude sickness, how that will affect you, because it doesn't have anything to do with like your physical health. We had people like in their 20s, whatever, and you go up a little bit up the mountain and they're out because you just feel
Wow.
sick and you can't continue. And there are people in there. There was a guy like when we got to the summit, he came down with like his 5-year-old on his back. Like he climbed the entire mountain with his kid on his back. So just like you just never know like how that will affect you until you do it. So yeah, so that's like another thing, like just something, and it's kind of nice. It's like it's like in your belt, something that no one can take away from you. Like later on, you'll always have that kind of memory, and I think it kind of lives. So I think the nice thing about thinking about the misogi is that if you do this yearly, I feel like it like builds like this armor that like
Mm-hmm.
grows like over time. So if you keep doing it every year, you'll actually get like stronger and stronger and stronger. So yeah, so I think that's why I kind of want to talk about it today, because it's really interesting concept.
Yeah, no, that's great. Like I wish I could think of examples where I climb Mount Fuji or try to surf and all that. I'm not that bold yet, but I think it is related to age. kind of where we are in our point in life right now. One thing, you know, I was thinking about is I go to the gym a lot, or I've been starting to go to the gym a lot more. I still lift a lot of weights, do like light cardio and stuff. But probably in the last 6 months, I've been kind of pushing myself to run more. And keep in mind, I hate running. I just hate cardio, but I still do it just to try to, you know, improve my respiratory system, get better cardio and stamina and whatnot. But now that I think of it, I've been pushing myself a lot, trying to get half a mile in, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it is a lot to me, to 1 mile, to 2 mile, even 3 miles. And for some reason, like 3 months ago, I was chatting with a buddy from Spokane where we grew up, and he was talking about doing Bloomsday. And then for some crazy reason, I thought to myself, you know what? Maybe I should prepare for Bloomsday next year.
What's Bloomsday for the people
For
who don't
those
know?
who don't know, it's actually one of a big running event in Spokane, Washington. I think it's the first or second weekend of May. It's 12 kilometers, 7.46 miles. And the thing with Bloomsday, that the final stretch, there's like Doomsday Hill. It's just literally going uphill for like a mile or a mile and a half or something like that. But I remember running it probably 22 years ago, 23 years ago, maybe. Of course, I was in my 20s, I was in my prime, but I could do it. But there's no way I could do it now. But for some reason, I just thought about, you know what? I think I could do it. I think I could push myself to do it. I hate running. Every time I run, I'm sore. My shins are hurting. My ankles are hurting. But I think I want to push myself to challenge and prepare for that come next May. So I don't know. Maybe it's a midlife crisis or an age thing that's coming up. But I do see that as I start running a little bit more, as I start pushing myself a little bit more, I feel a little bit more confident in the gym. I feel like I could lift more. I feel like I could do other exercises, which I'm not used to doing. For example, I hate doing leg work. I hate doing squats and lunges and all that. But I've been implementing that part of my workout too, as much as I hate it. And I think I'm seeing that because of the benefits from pushing myself and running a little bit more. But I never thought of it like that until I discovered this term, the Misogi that we're talking about today.
So going forward, I mean, is that for your Misogi? Is that what you would focus on if you had to do one, maybe this year or next year?
For now, that's the one I would probably focus on, unless something else comes up. But I think I'm pretty adamant about trying to get ready for Bloomsday come May of next year.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I think I'm not an expert on it, but I think the important thing is to kind of do something that is challenging but is of interest. So like running, like for me running, I'm not interested in running at all. But I would be, I mean, and then I would want to push myself to like the absolute limit. So like
Yeah.
in terms of like a bike ride, like biking, maybe from LA to San Francisco, I think
Yeah.
maybe something like that. That would be something that I'd maybe like to challenge myself trying something like that. Just like, I'm not a great swimmer, like swimming like in the ocean or something. I don't think I can do that. Not a huge fan of running. But like biking, I think I could probably do. But another thing that, I just kind of thought of, I think we talk about kind of like activities, and I think Michael Easter talks a lot about like wilderness. So like kind of finding kind of like the wilderness inside of you. But I would say like another misogi for me was like doing stand-up comedy.
That's
Like
right.
that's
Yeah.
yeah, that's like, well, more people are more afraid of speaking in front of an audience than death, I believe. I think there's like a study on that.
Yeah. I read
It's
something
like
like that.
it's like the most feared thing is
Yeah.
speaking in front of an audience. So yeah, so like doing that, I would say, yeah, I mean, so yeah, if there are people out there listening who maybe are not quite on like 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 running 20 miles or whatever, I think something like that. It's scary, like being in front of bunch of people you don't know. There's a great chance of failure. Like I've bombed many times in front of audiences. You just never know. It could go well. It could not go well.
Yeah. That's a
Um,
good point.
yeah. So I think that's like another thing is maybe just taking something that scares you and finding some way to try to tackle a challenge like along those lines.
And one thing that I read also is, I'll just read it right now. My biggest fear in my Misogi has been, what if I don't finish it? But that's part of the process. Completing a Misogi is not supposed to be crystal clear, which adds a sense of adventure. I think that's one thing that I worry about too. And as more I think about, is like, what if I don't finish Bloomsday? What if I'm not physically ready to run Bloomsday? What if I fail? What if I don't complete the task at hand? Right. But I don't think it's really about that. It's about pushing yourself, challenging yourself. Going through that process is more important than, the end result. And do you think that's right, Oliver?
Yeah, I mean, so I think another study, like a research study, was that your mind always quits before your body does.
Yeah.
So if you there's like a certain untapped potential that you have physically that you just have to like push past what your brain's telling you to stop. Your body can still go a little bit further. So yeah, I mean, I think I don't know if you put your mind to something. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think that's right. I mean, if you think about like the result more than the actual doing, then you'll get kind of the paralysis of analysis, right? You'll be kind of
Yeah.
stuck in your head. So yeah, I think it's really about just challenging yourself, not worrying about the result, and then the results will come one way or the other.
And I think also it's just unique challenges, right? These Misogi feelings should be something you celebrate, something unique, right? It's not something that you do every day, but like Oliver mentioned earlier, it's probably something you do once or twice a year. Something that's a big thing, kind of that happens throughout the time.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I think it's good to kind of identify what scares you, right? I mean, if it's like dangerous, I think that's one thing. Like if you're
Yeah,
scared of bears, like don't go into the in forest and like try to pick a fight with a bear. But like I think like judgment from others is always something that I've always been very finicky about. So like how do you challenge yourself to kind of combat that? So like yeah, so the stand up thing was one. I put a song out on my SoundCloud. That was like really hard to do
wow,
because like you make a song and you put it out and who
yeah,
knows what's gonna happen. But I think that's the same thing though, right? It's like you can't worry about the results. You just kind of have to do the thing, and then people will decide if it's good or not.
now
But
that I think,
yeah, yeah.
no, sorry, go ahead.
No, that's it. Yeah. So I don't know what are you thinking?
Yeah, I was going to say, now that I think about it, this podcast is kind of a Misagi for me, I would think. I've always had insecurities, never really wanted to talk about my issues or express my feelings, but I feel like this is kind of an outlet for me and also for us to do that. So, and essentially, it sounds like it could be a Misagi for us.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Anything that's scares you is
Yeah,
challenging. Yeah, and it's gonna be different for everyone.
yeah,
So
great concept.
yeah, so yeah, all right. Well, so they yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think something along those lines for me would be maybe I really think like the motorcycle thing was like the last thing I actually really wanted to do in life.
That's cool.
So I gotta like I don't know, I gotta find something else.
You got your license now?
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, anything else you want to add before we kind of close things out, Bill?
No, I think that's it. I think, maybe good simple call to action for those who are listening. If there are anything you want to put in your comments, one thing I would ask is, maybe put down your Misagi. If it's personal, you don't want to share it, we totally understand, but just put it down, write it down, jot something down, and maybe it'll make you think of some of the Misagis that you've done in the past or some of the Misagis that you want to encounter in the future.
Right, right, yeah. And then once you do the thing, just kind of take note of how it makes you feel, right? Like afterwards.
Absolutely.
So I think the original misogi was like a hard reset. So it's like a cleansing. It's like a reset on your mind and your body. So I think that originally that was the key concept. You can kind of take that into modern day age. So yeah. So please let us know in comments, reviews, what you plan on challenging yourself to, and let us know how it goes.
Absolutely.
All right, so hopefully we'll be back again next week. But yeah, again, please share this with your friends and your family, anyone you think that might benefit, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.